Have you ever felt a quiet doubt in your heart? Wondering if the woman you're with is truly loyal to you, or if her heart is already wandering somewhere else? It's a thought that can eat away at a man's peace. And here's the truth. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If someone is mistaken, instruct them kindly and show them the truth. But if they are acting against truth, guard yourself." Loyalty isn't just about words, it's about consistency, presence, and truth. Before we dive deep into the 11 hidden signs she's not loyal, I want to invite you to do something simple. Subscribe to this channel, like this video, and watch until the very end. Because what you're about to hear could completely change the way you approach love and relationships for the rest of your life. Now let me tell you a story. There was a young Roman soldier who once fell in love with a woman from a wealthy family. She showered him with attention, spoke sweet words, and made him believe he was her world. But while he was away serving Rome, whispers reached him that her affections were not as pure as she claimed. When he returned, he saw the truth, not in her words, but in her actions. She greeted him warmly, but her eyes wandered. She smiled, but her heart wasn't in the room. Marcus Aurelius would have reminded this soldier, "Look at what they do, not what they say." The soul reveals itself through actions, not speeches. So today we'll walk through 11 hidden signs she's not loyal, not to breed paranoia, but to awaken you to truth. Because the Stoics believed that clarity is freedom, and the man who sees clearly cannot be deceived. 1. Her attention is divided. Have you ever been on a date, sitting across the table from the woman you care about, and instead of locking eyes with you, she keeps glancing down at her phone? Maybe it vibrates, she giggles at a message, and you're left wondering, who or what has her attention right now? Now pause for a second. Think back to the early days of your love story. Do you remember how she used to look at you? How her eyes stayed fixed on yours? How her laughter belonged only to your words? And how the world seemed to disappear when the two of you were together? That's what loyalty feels like. Undivided attention. A presence so strong you don't need to question it. But over time, something shifts. You notice her body is with you, but her mind is somewhere else. She's scrolling while you're speaking. She's just checking Instagram when you're trying to share your heart. Or she's laughing at jokes from someone you've never met. And in that moment you feel it. Her attention is no longer yours alone. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And if her thoughts, while sitting beside you, are consumed by someone else, or distracted by endless screens, then her happiness and her loyalty are already drifting away from you." Let me make it real with a story. A friend of mine once shared how he realized his girlfriend was no longer truly present. At first it was small things, checking her phone at dinner, smiling at notifications. He brushed it off. But then one night, while he was talking about his dreams, she didn't hear a word. She was laughing at something on her screen. He paused, waiting for her eyes to meet his. But they never did. That night, he told me, he felt invisible in his own relationship. And that was the beginning of the end. Now ask yourself honestly, have you ever felt invisible with someone you love? Have you ever been in the same room but felt like she wasn't really there with you? That sinking feeling in your chest, that's not insecurity. That's awareness. A loyal woman doesn't just give you her time. She gives you her presence. She leans in when you speak, she remembers your words, and she makes you feel like you matter in that very moment. But when her attention is divided, when she constantly chooses distraction over connection, it's a hidden sign she's not truly loyal. Marcus Aurelius also said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If her thoughts are dyed with curiosity about someone else, if her joy comes more from her screen than from you, then her soul is no longer aligned with loyalty. So pay attention, not to what she says, but to where her attention goes. Because where attention flows, loyalty follows. 2. She speaks lightly about other men. How would you feel if the woman you love constantly brought up other men in her conversations? Maybe she laughs about a coworker's jokes. Maybe she casually mentions how fun a certain friend is. Or maybe she always has a story involving some guy you don't even know. At first you tell yourself it's nothing. She's just being friendly. But deep down you feel that sting. And here's the truth. You're not crazy for noticing it. The heart always knows when something's off. Think back to the early days of your relationship. Do you remember how her words seemed to belong only to you? When she praised someone, it was you. When she laughed with someone, it was you. But slowly, You begin to notice that her conversations are sprinkled with names that aren't yours. Oh, my colleague James is so smart. Or, my friend Alex is just hilarious. And you find yourself wondering, why is she so eager to speak about them? Marcus Aurelius once said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Now imagine this, if she constantly feels the need to speak of another man with excitement, admiration, or delight, what truth is hiding behind those words? Because people don't randomly glorify others, we speak most often of what's most often on our minds. Let me share a story. One of my close friends once told me about a subtle shift he noticed in his relationship. His girlfriend began talking frequently about a new colleague at work. At first it was innocent. He's really good at his job. Then it turned into, he always makes me laugh. And finally she compared him to my friend. Why can't you be more relaxed like him? That's when the alarm bells rang. Not because she had committed some act of betrayal, but because her words revealed where her admiration was flowing. Her attention, her thoughts, her curiosity. It wasn't tied to her man anymore. It was tied to someone else. Now I want to ask you, have you ever been in that position? Have you ever felt your stomach tighten when she dropped another man's name into conversation? A little too often? That's not insecurity. That's awareness. Because loyalty doesn't glorify others in front of the one it claims to love. The Stoics believed in watching actions over words. But here's the paradox. Sometimes words are the actions. The very act of repeatedly mentioning another man, of speaking lightly about him, of giving him space in her conversations, is already a quiet breach of loyalty. Marcus Aurelius taught, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." You cannot control who she admires or why she speaks of others, but you can recognize that her loyalty is revealed in the direction of her words. So remember this. A loyal woman speaks in a way that makes you feel secure, but if her stories are filled with other men, if her laughter seems reserved for them more than you, it's a hidden sign, not because of jealousy, but because her words are quietly telling you where her heart is leaning. 3. Her emotional bonding seems shallow. Have you ever been in a relationship where, no matter how much time you spent together, something always felt missing? She laughs at your jokes, she shares meals with you, maybe even holds your hand, but when you try to go deeper, when you try to open up about your fears, your dreams, or your struggles, she shuts down. Her responses are short, surface level, almost like she's guarding her heart. Now think back to the start of your love story. Do you remember those first conversations when the night seemed too short because you both had so much to share? You felt like two souls opening doors to one another. But now those doors feel closed. You open yours, but hers stays locked. That's what I mean by shallow bonding. It's when her presence is there, but her heart isn't. One of Marcus Aurelius's most powerful reminders was this: a man's worth is no greater than his ambitions. Now let's apply that to love. A woman's depth in a relationship is no greater than her ambition to build true intimacy with you. If her ambition is shallow, just to have someone to text, someone to keep her company, someone to post pictures with, then her emotional bond with you will also be shallow. And shallow bonds rarely hold loyalty. Let me share a story. A man I once knew believed he had found the perfect woman. She was beautiful, social, and fun to be around. But he confessed to me one day, when I talked to her about what I really feel, "It's like I'm speaking into the wind." She changes the subject or laughs it off. It's like she doesn't want to go deeper. At first he ignored it, thinking maybe she just wasn't comfortable yet. But as time went on, he realized that her heart wasn't in the relationship. She was there for the fun, the smiles, the attention, but not for the depth. Eventually she left. Not because of a fight, not because of betrayal, but simply because she was never truly invested emotionally. Now let me ask you, have you ever shared something deeply personal with someone you love, only to feel like they didn't really hear you? That hollow silence, that lack of curiosity, it hurts more than anger, doesn't it? Because love isn't just about being in the same room, it's about being in the same heart. Marcus Aurelius also said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If her thoughts never dive deeper than the surface, if her soul doesn't reach out to connect with yours, it's a sign her loyalty is weak. Emotional shallowness is like sand under your feet. You can stand on it for a while, but sooner or later it gives way. So pay attention. A loyal woman doesn't just laugh with you, she listens to you. She doesn't just sit beside you, she understands you. If her emotional bonding feels shallow, it's not just her personality. It's her loyalty revealing its limits. 4. She treats commitment casually. What does commitment really mean to you? Is it exclusivity, loyalty, a shared future? Or maybe it's simply knowing that the person you love is just as invested in you as you are in them. Now think about this. Have you ever been with someone who treated commitment as if it was just optional? As if promises didn't carry weight and loyalty was negotiable? Let's rewind for a moment. Do you remember the beginning of your relationship? How she said things like, "I'm so lucky to have you," or "I can't imagine being with anyone else." Those words gave you security, didn't they? They made you feel like you had something real, something solid. But then slowly her tone changed. Maybe she started saying things like, "Why do we need labels?" Or "We don't have to define this right now." At first you thought it was no big deal, just her being carefree. But deep down you felt it, she wasn't fully in. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." And the same applies to loyalty. When someone is committed, they don't debate whether or not they should be. They simply are. True loyalty doesn't need endless explanations. It shows itself in consistency, in promises kept, in actions aligned with words. Let me tell you a story. A man once shared with me how his girlfriend used to brush off serious conversations about the future. When he asked, "Do you see us building something long-term?" she would laugh and say, "Why ruin the moment with heavy talks? Let's just enjoy life." At first, he convinced himself she was just living in the present. But months later, when she quietly drifted away into someone else's arms, he realized she had never been planning a future with him at all. She was treating commitment as casual entertainment, not a sacred bond. Now let me ask you, have you ever ignored those little signs because you didn't want to lose her? Have you ever told yourself, "She'll come around," even though her actions already showed she wasn't serious? That's the dangerous trap, because loyalty isn't about what you hope she'll give tomorrow, it's about what she's showing you today. Marcus Aurelius also said, "If it is not true, do not say it. If it is not right, do not do it." A woman who treats commitment lightly is already living outside truth. She'll say the words of love, but her actions won't hold the weight of loyalty. Remember this. Commitment is the foundation of love. Without it, everything else, romance, intimacy, even affection, becomes unstable. If she avoids commitment, it's not because she's chill or carefree. It's because she's keeping the door open for something or someone else. So watch closely. If she treats commitment like a game, it's not just her personality, it's her loyalty quietly slipping through your hands. It's how she hides parts of her life. How does it feel when the woman you love suddenly becomes secretive? One day she's an open book, telling you where she's been, who she's with, and how her day went. And then slowly she starts closing those pages. She doesn't share as much anymore. Her phone is always face down. She locks her apps. And when you ask her something simple like, "Who were you talking to?" she brushes it off with, "Oh, nobody important." Now think back to the start of your relationship. Do you remember how effortless the conversations were? How she would text you about the smallest details of her day, like what she had for lunch, or how she couldn't wait to see you. She wanted to let you in. She wanted you to be part of her world. But now, something has changed. Instead of opening doors, she's closing them. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The secret of all victory lies in the organization of the non-obvious. And in love, what is hidden is often more telling than what is shown." A loyal woman doesn't need to hide. Her life is transparent, because her loyalty has nothing to fear. But when she starts guarding pieces of herself, when certain parts of her world become off limits, you need to ask yourself, what is she protecting? Let me share a story. A man I once knew was dating a woman who at first seemed incredibly open. She shared everything, from her family troubles to her work frustrations. But one day he noticed her behavior shift. Her phone was suddenly always on silent. She left the room to take calls. When he asked who she was with after work, she would say, "Just some people, you don't know them." At first he didn't push. He didn't want to seem controlling. But over time, he realized he wasn't being controlling at all. He was being shut out. Her loyalty wasn't fading because of an argument. It was fading because she was living a separate life behind closed doors. Now let me ask you, have you ever felt that unsettling distance with someone you love? That feeling that even though they're right next to you, There's a part of them you no longer have access to. That's not just insecurity. That's your intuition warning you. Marcus Aurelius also said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." When a woman starts hiding pieces of her life, she is already walking away from truth. And where there is no truth, there is no loyalty. Transparency is love's oxygen. Without it, the relationship suffocates. If she hides her conversations, if she conceals where she's been, if she closes doors that once were open, it's not just a phase, it's a sign. A sign that her loyalty may no longer belong to you. So remember this. Secrets are the cracks where disloyalty slips in. And if she hides parts of her life, don't ignore it. The truth is speaking, you just have to listen. 6. She becomes easily bored. Have you ever noticed how some women can never seem satisfied no matter what you do? You take her out to a nice dinner. She enjoys it once, and the next time she says, "We always go to the same places." You plan a weekend getaway. She's excited for a moment. But halfway through, she's already talking about the next trip. Even in conversations, she grows restless, picking up her phone, yawning, or changing topics like she can't sit still. At first, you may think, she just likes variety. But deep down, you sense something heavier. Her heart isn't steady. She isn't grounded in the joy of being with you. She's addicted to novelty, always looking for the next shiny distraction. Now think back to your love story's beginning. Do you remember how even the simplest things felt exciting? Sitting together on a park bench, walking aimlessly, laughing about nothing. It didn't matter what you did, because the magic was in simply being together. But over time, if she's the type who gets easily bored, that magic fades not because of what you did, but because her loyalty was never rooted in you, it was rooted in stimulation. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "He who seeks the applause of others is dependent on them." And in the same way, a woman who constantly seeks excitement is dependent on the world around her to feel alive. That dependency makes loyalty fragile, because the moment the excitement fades, she'll start searching for it elsewhere. Let me share a story. A man I knew once dated a woman who had what he called a thirst for newness. At first he loved it, she was spontaneous, always coming up with fun ideas. But over time, he realized it wasn't spontaneity, it was restlessness. She was bored with the routine of their relationship. No matter how much effort he put in, if he planned a surprise, she enjoyed it but quickly dismissed it. If he wanted a quiet night together, she wanted to go out. Eventually, that same restlessness carried her right into another man's arms, not because she didn't care for him, but because her loyalty had always been weaker than her craving for novelty. Now let me ask you, have you ever been with someone who made you feel like you had to constantly entertain them? Like if you didn't keep things exciting, their attention would slip away? That's not love. That's a warning. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." A loyal woman finds happiness in simple moments because her thoughts are rooted in love, not thrill-seeking. But a woman who grows bored too easily is revealing something deeper. Her thoughts are restless, her heart unstable, her loyalty fragile. So pay attention. If she becomes bored with the very things that should bring her closer to you, your presence, your conversations, your shared moments, it's not because you're dull. It's because her soul is chasing distractions, not devotion. And here's the truth. Boredom today can become betrayal tomorrow. 7. Her friends reflect her choices. Have you ever heard the saying, "Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future"? When it comes to relationships, this couldn't be more true. A woman may hide her intentions with words, but her circle of friends often reveals the truth she won't say out loud. Think about it. Have you ever met a woman whose friends all lived carefree, party-heavy lives where loyalty wasn't exactly a priority? Maybe they constantly talk about men, hookups, and chasing attention. Now ask yourself, how long before those same patterns begin to influence her? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, but in life, our souls also absorb the colors of those around us. Just as smoke clings to clothes, attitudes and behaviors cling to us from the company we keep. If her closest friends commitment, treat men as disposable, and chase only excitement, it's only a matter of time before she normalizes the same behavior." Let me tell you a story. A man once fell deeply in love with a woman who seemed sweet, innocent, and genuine. But her group of friends lived by a different code. Late-night parties, constant gossip, and flings that they laughed about the next morning. At first he thought, she's different. She's not like them. But slowly, he noticed changes. She began excusing the behavior of her friends, laughing at things she once said she didn't believe in, and eventually she started to mirror the same actions. What happened? Her loyalty wasn't just to him. It was divided between him and the values of her social circle. And over time, the circle won. Now, this doesn't mean every friend determines her fate. A woman with a strong, grounded character can resist negative influence. But here's the question. Does she lead her circle or does she follow it? That's the real test of her strength and loyalty. Think about your own relationships. Have you ever felt uneasy not because of her, but because of the company she kept? Did her friends' lifestyles clash with what you wanted in a partner? That uneasiness is your instinct warning you, because when storms come, people fall back on the values of their tribe. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to guard his character against corruption by the crowd. He knew the human tendency to imitate was strong. In relationships, this is magnified. If she surrounds herself with women who honor loyalty, integrity, and respect, she'll be encouraged to protect those same values. But if her circle thrives on chaos, you'll eventually feel that chaos spill into your relationship. Here's the hard truth. You don't just date a woman, you date her environment. And if her environment doesn't align with love, stability, and loyalty, you'll eventually feel the weight of it. So pay attention not just to her words, but to her friendships. Because her friends don't just reflect her choices, they reflect her future. 8. Her stories don't add up. Have you ever caught yourself listening to her tell a story, and something just didn't feel right? Maybe the timing didn't match. Maybe the details kept shifting. Or maybe you noticed her giving one version of the same event to you, and another version to someone else. Deep down, your gut whispered, something's not adding up. This is one of the clearest hidden signs of disloyalty. Not because one slip of the tongue means betrayal, but because inconsistency in stories often reveals inconsistency in loyalty. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it is not true, do not say it. If it is not right, do not do it." Simple words, yet a powerful reflection of character. When truth is absent, so is integrity. And in love, integrity is the foundation. Without it, trust becomes fragile, like glass ready to shatter at the slightest crack. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who believed he had found his forever partner. She was beautiful, charming, and every moment with her felt alive. But then came the small cracks. One evening, she said she was with her friends at dinner. Later, in passing, she mentioned watching a movie that same night. When he asked gently about the mix-up, she laughed it off, saying he misheard. At first, he ignored the red flags. Everyone forgets details, he told himself. But then it happened again. A different story here, a mismatched timeline there. He began noticing how she became defensive whenever he asked clarifying questions. And here's the lesson. Loyal people don't fear clarity. Only those hiding something do. Now pause for a second. Have you ever been in love? So deeply that you ignored those little contradictions? Did you convince yourself they weren't important? Only to realize later that they were the truth tapping at your door asking to be seen? This is where Stoicism comes in. The Stoics taught us to see reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to strip away illusions and face life with clear eyes. And that's exactly what you must do when her stories don't align, because love has a way of making us blind. We prefer the comfort of fantasy over the discomfort of truth. But here's the real danger. When stories don't add up, it's not just about the lie, it's about the disrespect. It's about her believing you won't notice, or worse, that you'll notice and still accept it. That is not love, that is manipulation. So the next time her words and timelines feel shaky, don't just brush it off. Ask yourself, is this a mistake or is this a pattern? Because loyalty doesn't stumble over its own stories. It walks in truth, steadily and clearly. Marcus Aurelius once said, if someone is deceiving you, the fault is theirs. But if you allow the deceit to continue, the fault becomes yours. Let that sink in. When stories don't add up, listen closely, not to the words, but to the truth beneath them. Because inconsistency in stories is often the shadow of inconsistency. 9. She downplays intimacy. Have you ever been with someone who treated intimacy like it was nothing? Not just physical closeness, but the deeper emotional bond that comes with it? If you've felt that, it leaves you with a strange emptiness, like you're giving your whole heart, but she's only half present. This is one of the hidden signs she's not loyal, when she downplays intimacy. Because true intimacy, emotional and physical, is sacred. It's not something casual. It's the space where two souls meet without masks. But when she treats it lightly like just another activity, it's a signal her heart isn't truly with you. Marcus Aurelius once reflected, "Love the art, poor as it may be, which you have learned, and be content with it." In relationships, this means valuing the depth of connection you share, not treating it as disposable. When intimacy is downplayed, it's not just love that's missing, it's respect. Let me share a story. A man once told me about his relationship with a woman he adored. At first, intimacy was magical, slow, meaningful, filled with passion that seemed to go beyond the physical. But as months passed, something shifted. She no longer seemed invested. Their private moments became rushed, mechanical, and sometimes avoided altogether. When he tried to bring it up, she brushed it off with, "It's not that important. Why are you making it a big deal?" Think about that. Have you ever been made to feel guilty for wanting closeness? As if desiring intimacy was a weakness? If so, you know the sting. Because when intimacy is downplayed, it often means her emotional energy is already invested elsewhere. Or worse, she doesn't value what you're giving. Here's the Stoic truth. Intimacy is never just physical. It is a mirror of emotional loyalty. A woman who truly loves you will protect and cherish that bond. She won't treat it like an afterthought or dismiss it as unimportant. If she does, it's a sign her loyalty is fractured. Marcus Aurelius taught that everything in life has its proper weight and value. To misuse or undervalue something sacred is to live against nature. Love, closeness, passion, these are not trivial. They are what separate a bond from a transaction. So ask yourself, when you're with her, does she meet you with the same depth you give? Or does she treat intimacy as something shallow, replaceable, even optional? Because here's the truth. When someone downplays intimacy, it's often because they've disconnected their heart from the act. And without the heart, intimacy is just empty motion. The Stoics would tell you to see this clearly. Don't deceive yourself by clinging to memories of what intimacy used to be. Look at what it is now. If her passion has no depth, if her closeness feels distant, it's not about the act, it's about where her loyalty lies. Because a woman who loves you will never downplay intimacy. She will treasure it, she will protect it, and she will remind you that in her heart. 10. She tests boundaries. Have you ever noticed how some women push little limits just to see how far they can go? Maybe it starts with a small thing, flirting with another man in front of you, canceling plans at the last minute, or saying something disrespectful in a joking tone. At first you brush it off, but then it happens again and again. That, my friend, is not random, it's a test. When a woman repeatedly tests your boundaries, she's showing you more about her loyalty than her words ever will. Because loyalty respects limits. Disloyalty pokes at them, bends them, and eventually breaks them. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." What does this mean in love? It means you can't always control her behavior, but you can control how you respond. And when boundaries are tested, your response reveals whether the relationship stands on respect or crumbles under neglect. Let me tell you a story. A man I knew once fell for a woman who was full of energy, charm, and boldness. At first, her fiery personality excited him, but soon he began to notice the subtle tests. She would post suggestive pictures online, claiming it was just for fun. She would mention how other men found her attractive, waiting for his reaction. She even ignored his requests for simple respect, brushing them off with, "You're too serious." At first, he laughed along. He thought, if I stay calm, I'll look strong. But here's the truth. Silence in the face of disrespect isn't strength. It's permission. And slowly he realized her tests weren't playful. They were a way to see how much she could get away with before he drew the line. By the time he tried to reclaim respect, the damage was already done. Now pause for a moment. Have you ever been in that place where you let things slide because you were afraid of losing her, only to realize you lost yourself instead? The Stoics teach us that boundaries are not walls of fear, they are lines of honor. Marcus Aurelius lived by principle, not by impulse. He knew that what you allow shapes who you become. In love, it's the same. If you allow your boundaries to be broken, you send a silent message. My respect is negotiable. And once respect is negotiable, loyalty is already gone. Here's the thing. A loyal woman doesn't test the boundaries of love, she protects them. She doesn't look for ways to see how much she can get away with. She looks for ways to grow within the sacred. limits of respect and trust. So when she tests your boundaries, don't ignore it. Don't justify it, face it. Because every small test is a preview of bigger ones to come. And if she doesn't honor your boundaries now, she won't honor your heart later. 11. Your intuition keeps whispering to life. Have you ever felt it? That quiet voice inside. The one you try to silence, but it keeps whispering anyway? You can't always explain it. But something about her words, her actions, or her energy feels off. That's not paranoia. That's your intuition speaking. And often it's the final and most powerful sign she's not loyal. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Our inner world always knows before our mind catches up. Intuition isn't magic, it's your subconscious, piecing together details your conscious mind overlooks. And in love, it's the one signal you cannot afford to ignore. Let me tell you a story. A man once shared how, from the very beginning, something in his gut told him that his girlfriend wasn't fully loyal. There were no obvious red flags at first, no secretive phone calls, no lies he could catch, but he couldn't shake the unease. It was like a faint alarm ringing quietly in the background of every happy moment. He ignored it, of course. He told himself, "I'm just overthinking. She's amazing, why would she betray me?" But slowly, small details began to surface. Stories that didn't match, a strange coldness in her intimacy, friends who seemed to know more than he did. By the time the truth revealed itself, he realized something heartbreaking. His intuition had been right all along. He just didn't trust it. Now let me ask you, have you ever been in love? So deeply that you silenced your own instincts? Maybe you saw the red flags, but your heart begged you to stay blind, because leaving would hurt too much. Did you later regret not listening to that whisper sooner? The Stoics teach us to strip away illusion and face reality. No matter how uncomfortable, Marcus Aurelius urged himself daily to live in truth. Because illusion, though sweet in the moment, only leads to deeper pain later. In relationships, this means trusting yourself enough to acknowledge what you feel, even when you don't yet have all the evidence. Here's the truth. When your intuition keeps whispering, it's rarely wrong. Loyalty has a way of calming the soul. You feel safe, seen, secure. But disloyalty, even when hidden, disturbs the spirit. You sense the distance, the lack of transparency, the shift in energy. That whisper is your soul telling you the truth your heart doesn't want to accept. And here's where strength comes in. A Stoic man doesn't live in denial. He faces reality with courage. If your intuition is restless, pay attention. Don't silence it with excuses or blind hope. Test it against her actions, not her words. Because in the end, a loyal woman brings peace, not suspicion. So if your intuition keeps whispering, listen. It may hurt to face the truth, but it will hurt far more to live in a lie. Closing reflection. Now let me ask you something. Did one or more of these signs remind you of your own relationship? Don't ignore that. Stoicism isn't about living in fear. It's about living in truth. Marcus Aurelius spent his life reminding himself that reality is better than illusion, and that peace comes only when we see things as they are, not as we wish them to be. So if you recognize these signs, it doesn't mean anger must consume you. It means you now hold clarity, and clarity is power, because the loyal man is strong, but the man who identifies disloyalty and acts wisely, he is unbreakable. Remember, love should never be a prison of doubt. It should be a temple of trust. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.